All rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Hudak. Here. Supervisor Hay.
Here. Okay, notation of exits in the front and the rear. Any electronic device, please put it on vibrate. Make a motion to go into the work session portion of the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item for the discussion tonight will be the Birch Hill Highview Terrace Water District. How many people are here for that portion of the meeting? Okay. What I'm saying tonight will be mailed out to all residents, whether they're here tonight with the full details. I just told you we'd bring you back. The district is now yours. We'll have the full detail. I'm going to give a partial, but you'll have all the emergency phone numbers to call. Is Levon here? There's Levon. So Levon Bedrosian, he's our special districts coordinator. And from now on, you'll be calling his office, not me, call Levon. And he'll handle it. But on Monday, we're going to send out a letter with basically much of what I have to say here tonight, plus the emergency phone numbers, which we're not going to go until Monday when we send it in the mail. Okay. I thought there'd be more people here for that tonight. Okay. Again, the district is created. I'm going to go over some of the financing with you because when we started this, we had estimates, but now the reality is what it costs to form the district. The engineering fees were $48,000 and change, just for the creation of the district through the engineers. The attorney fees, $11,000. So going into it, you're $59,000 in the hole. The first year of your, it's only interest only on the loan. We're going to take a ban out for $275,000. It's going to be about $180,000 from here on in to, reconnect the pipes and there's a company called JCO that'll be your operator. I mean, all these costs are associated with it or in these costs. So the first year is interest only, it's $295 a quarter. The second quarter, the second year, it goes to $450 a quarter. Now, it could be lower, but not by a lot. And I don't even want to say $425 because we're borrowing $275. We're estimating we'll need around $250. We put a $25,000 cushion in there because we go out for band, we don't have to go out and have to borrow a couple more pennies or a couple $1,000 more. So we're going to borrow $275 in a band, but we don't have to borrow it all. So if it's $265, it's $265, but we do have to have some money because again, you've been paying the Bruins all this time, and now it's unfortunately your district, and we have to have some money for contingency in case something happens. So most likely it'll be $275. So the first year, again, it's $295 for a quarter. You will be billed, I think, this quarter? Pardon?
At the end of this quarter,
At the end of this quarter. So the first of the year will be the first bill that will go out?
I believe so. I'll have to check with the accountant. They might have sent one out this quarter, but I don't think so.
Okay, I can't tell you tonight if you get a bill in the mail, it's going to be for the first quarter. It'd be for the fourth quarter. When I said the first quarter, that you actually be paying, and not for the fourth quarter. Now, I see Ms. Del Bono has just arrived. We have to tie up some loose ends with you on the 7 homes that are tied into your portion of the district.
Okay.
We're still waiting for the survey, meets and bounds description. For those of you who are late, it's $295 a quarter, beginning, I believe, with the fourth quarter of this year, which is now, and be $450 a quarter the second year. The first year it's $295 because you're paying interest only. The second year you're paying for principal and interest. So the band I just said was $275. So as not to repeat myself, because probably more people will be coming in, you will be getting a letter in the mail. Will be sent out on Monday with all these particulars. Let's see. I guess at this point in time, I will take questions, because that's the bulk of it. It was all about the money. Yes, sir. If you would, sir, if you would, just come up to the mic so we can hear you.
I thought Eagles Bridge of Bruce
Sir, sir. No, okay, just stay there. No. The first thing on the agenda is Birch Hill and Highview Terrace. Second item on the agenda is discussion on the water district billing for what you're here for. There's more than one item on the agenda. So the first thing, you come up to the, if you'd like to ask the question, please. Just state your name for the record.
Mary Binda.
Could you just bring it down a little bit?
Mary Binda. I'd just like to know, why is it so expensive? We've been having these wells, I've been living there 35 years.
Are you, yeah, you're in Birch Hill,
I'm in Highview Terrace.
Highview Terrace. Okay, why is it so expensive? First of all, the part of Highview Terrace, are you on the original Bruin line or the other 7?
The other 7.
The other
And I've
7.
been there 35 years, and it was very good.
Well, you were very lucky, because in the past 35 years that you've received water, the health department was unaware of the well.
And we were fine.
Now, ma'am,
Fine.
we unfortunately, we don't make the rules, they do. Had they known, they would have come in long ago, and they have rules, regulations, there's certain requirements, testing, and none of that was ever
But when
done.
this was all done, isn't this supposed to be grandfathered in somehow?
It is. You have what they call a waiver, you have a waiver. As long as you have that waiver, believe it or not, your costs are down. If something happens and you lose the waiver, you will have to start either with an ultraviolet light, they're gonna have other requirements to purify your water. And hopefully, we never get to that portion of it.
Now, another question. If in the future I choose to sink my own well,
You cannot. Once you live within a district, like you are now, you cannot sink your own well. Now, the reason for that is, one, it's a health department rule, and second, because all the houses are already currently situated, the distance from well to septic, I don't know, if you're going up on Birch, Highview, are you on the left-hand side or right-hand side of the road?
going up on the left,
You're on the left. So you're up,
yes.
okay? So your septic would have to be 200 feet from another person's well, okay? So you can't have a well, you could possibly have a well, but the
Okay.
person behind you could not. And then the less people on the system, the more it costs. So if 2 or 3 people drop out of this year, their rates go out, basically out of sight. So the health department, basically, anyone that has a district, you're not allowed to, break away from the district. It's just, bless you.
All right.
Now,
Thank you.
again, you weren't, I don't recall you coming to the first meeting. I told you we wanted almost nothing to do with this, because water districts are one of the worst things. Sewer districts, we're forced to take them. This owner was at least good enough to give us the keys before he left and worked with us. We've inherited things like overnight. They just basically didn't even leave us the keys, just walked away from it, and by law, we're required to take it over. And the people that live in the district, unfortunately, are responsible for whatever billing is required. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
George Mahoney, 18 Birch Hill Road. The charges that you outlined for the first and the second year, is that on top of water usage charges or
That's included.
included?
Yes. Now, many of the districts, which Levon will be discussing tonight, you have what they call a monthly rate, and then you get a per usage. Some have, a limited amount of gallonage and things of that nature. That has not been set up with your, you've been using whatever water you want. They're not limited, right? You're not limited, but there are others that are limited to 13,000 gallons a month. Anything over, it's more. Peaceful Hill, they're charged like $150 a quarter plus 2.3 cents per gallon. And it gets to be costly. And the most expensive system here we have just for water, not sewer, is Springhouse Estates, which is around $850 a quarter, which is outrageous.
Correct. Ours would, so ours will still be the same usage, we don't have anything at the moment.
Yeah, we don't foresee that changing. Again, you have one of the smaller, and that's why you pay a lot more in a sense per person, because you only have You had 17 on the original system. You have 7 new ones being added that they were unaware of, okay? So there's 24 that are sharing in that cost. Because if not, this would be shared with 17 people and the cost would be a lot higher.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Anyone else on Birch Hill? I know the numbers are staggering, but I just mentioned Springhouse Estate at $850 a quarter. And I really feel bad for those people, but
I just want to add, Legislator Castellano wasn't able to make it tonight, but we spoke earlier in the week, and he had just asked me to make sure that I mentioned to the board and to anybody in the audience, you know, if there was any possible way to make the quarterly charges not be astronomical and do things in increments. And I think Supervisor Hay did try to do that, and he explained that the best we could do was basically the $295 or so that he quoted now for year one, and then moving forward in year two, $450 a quarter. So he was hoping to do things in stages, but this was the best we could do.
now the stages, unfortunately, the first year it's interest only, which is good, but then the second year you have to start paying off the principal. Now, just so everyone knows, let me just deal with some of the other water rates just briefly. In Brewster Heights, there's a flat rate of $270 plus usage. Eagles Ridge, something similar. Star Ridge is $134 plus usage. Fox Hill is $260 plus usage. Mountain Brook is $365 plus usage. The smaller the district, the more money it is. Peaceful Hill is $150 plus usage. Blackberry, $69.50 plus usage. Hillcrest, $180 plus usage. Springhouse Estates, $850. There's no usage limitation, but they're paying $850. And Birch Hill, you're going to start at $295. So when you look at it, I hate to say that you're in the ballpark or you're not in the ballpark. I am very fortunate. I don't have a district, and I'm telling you right now, I used to live in Brewster Heights back in 1957. We had our own well, and I don't know when they converted them over, but probably within 10 years after I moved in, but I had moved out by that point in time and went somewhere else in Brewster, that they had the system put in. And the Brewster Heights people will be discussing them next. They get their water directly from the reservoir, and the treatment is, you know, a lot different than the other ones. So the numbers are really high. I know none of these town board members or myself really want anything to do with it. I wish Putnam County would take it over so they can be responsible. But somehow the way the law is, we as a town are responsible. Towns like Carmel have water districts, big ones, and their usage and water rates are a lot lower, but it's really widespread. In this town, it didn't happen that way, unfortunately. Anyone else on a question on Birch Hill, Highview Terrace? Okay, I'll be sending a letter out on Monday, so you know who to call, the emergency phone numbers. You will have a generator. I don't know what happened in the past, if you lost your water, what happened if the lights were out or whatever. There'll be a generator, portable generator, which will be available to you. You also have to have it maintenance, basically requirements by the Department of Health. How often do they have to have it?
3 times a week.
3 times a week, your water has to be tested. It's.
No, tested, they go there.
Why don't you just come up just briefly? Now, in the past, I know the one system with the 7 homes on it, I mean, they probably had to test it once a year, but the health department regulations, and we don't make those regulations, the state makes them. The Putnam County Health Department enforces state regulations. They could require, who's got the most? Does anyone have a daily one,
What's that?
daily testing?
All of the other systems get tested daily. This system will be tested once a month, but they have operators that visit the site 3 times a week for observation and testing of the equipment to make sure everything's working properly and so forth.
And how about something like a Brewster Heights or the other ones? How often do they go
Well,
there?
Brewster Heights is different.
Daily.
That's daily, but that's 6 hours a day because it's such a large system.
Yeah. 6 hours a day, so that's,
Yeah,
That's big.
7 days a week.
so when JCO goes out to Birch Hill, they'll go down to the pit, whatever. Now, we're gonna have to raise that above the pit too, or?
Right, that's part of this whole plan.
Now, in Birch Hill, the existing 17 homes, your water is down in a pit. It's required now to have all, not, the tank stays in the ground, but all the instrumentation that was down there is required to be above ground. And that was new. The Bruins did what they were supposed to do all along. However, the rules and regulations changed, I think it was about a year ago. And because we were gonna end up taking over the system, they kind of like, I wouldn't say it went like this, but they didn't have to put it in. We now, since we take it over, the Bruins would have had to done it, but we still have to do it, but you would have had to pay for it one way or the other, whether the Bruins did it or the town is doing it. And again, they're all regulations by the Department of Health, not trying to blame them, but it's state regulations. So if they want to test it, we have to test it. When I had my store over on Route 6 there, anything over 4 units requires testing. One thing that upset me as a legislator is they told me it was going to be cheaper for me. I used to test it myself and give them the results. Oh, we can do it cheaper. It was double. It wasn't cheaper. It cost me double. But they didn't believe my results. Like, I mean, come on, let's get real. So at any rate, they tested it themselves on mine, but this were required to have a district. Yes, ma'am. Could you come up? Don't go far, Lamont. You're on number 2.
Rachel Whitehead, 23 Birch Hill Road. The well is on my property in a sense. I'm just curious when you say the instrumentation has to come up, what exactly does that mean? What is it going to look like? Is there going to be a shed put there, or?
Levon?
Basically, the well is on its own piece of property, just so you know, that's a postage stamp. But all the wellheads and everything has to come above ground, so there'll be what's called a control panel. It's like a large electrical box. It'll probably be maybe 3 or 4 times the size of this podium. And right now, we don't have a shed over it, but we are probably going to put some type of structure over it so that it will keep the elements out of it, snow, rain, and sunshine. So it will have that over top of it.
Now,
The town board already actually approved the contract to have that work done, so hopefully it will be done before December, end of December, and then the shed will probably be sometime next summer.
and again, we have to do that. It's a requirement of the Department of Health. That's the way it be done. And I want to thank Joe Castellanos, not here in the Putnam County Legislature, for giving us the piece of land just past Miss Del Bellino's property. There's another piece of land that goes quite a distance to the end of the road that has been given to the district. So if and when something ever happens, we do have a piece of land that would be moved from where it currently is down the road, but we never want to go there, because if it does, prices go much higher.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move to the second item on the agenda on the work session, and that's water district billing. Okay. I know Mr. Alvarez has received a lot of phone calls. I get them all the time from people in Brewster Heights, I guess because I used to live there, and they say, why did you move? Levon's going to explain how and why there was a letter sent, I guess, about, different costs associated with it. Brewster Heights is kind of unique because how it gets its water as opposed to anyone else. So if you can just discuss and identify Brewster Heights and Eagles Ridge, how they're billed and what issues they face.
Okay, going back, this started back in 2009, I guess. Some of the residents were calling and asking about the billing and the rates and if it was ever going to go down and be reduced and so forth. So at that time, the supervisor had us draft up a letter to go out to the residents to explain to them what the rates were and where we expected them to be at that time. And then in that letter, it says that they would be reduced up to, say, about $140 or $104 per quarter based on the current situation. But it also did mention that that was pending if anything happened, unforeseeable circumstances happened. Since then, we've had some issues in that district, which changed the finances in that district. In 2015, this year, we will have 4 major bonds paid off. 2 of them are in the water district and 2 of them are in the sewer district. With those bonds being paid off, we will have significant savings in how much we need to collect from those residents for those bonds. But the problem is that over the last 3 years, those districts have been operating at a shortfall. And because of those shortfalls, the districts actually owe the town some money. Brewster Heights Sewer currently has a deficit of, let me see, $73,000. That's the deficit for the water or sewer plant. The water plant has a deficit of $142,000. So between both of those, the town has been generous to allow those districts to run at a shortfall, knowing that we were going to have these major bonds being paid off this year. We felt instead of raising the rates for 2 years and then reducing them, we would let them stay at the same rate, and then in 2016 and possibly the first 2 quarters of 2017, reduce it a short amount, but keep some of the rates there to pay back that fund balance. So with that, we sent out these letters explaining to the residents those issues and so those things. And their water rates are going to be reduced $40 a quarter from $286 to $246, and their sewer rates are going to be going, oh wait, this is the houses. The sewer rates going from $166 to $155 for a total of $51 in reduction for the homes. And for the condos, in the condos it's a little bit more complicated because we have some condos that have meters and some that do not. So the metered ones are going to be reduced. Let me see. The metered residents will be reduced $40 per quarter for the water, and the same $11 for their sewer. So the metered residents will be reduced to $51 per quarter also. But the unmetered ones, actually they're going to be about the same. They're about $44 reduction per quarter. And we see that for the next 6 months or 6 quarters. So in 2017, instead of actually having to pay high for the first 2 quarters and then reduce it halfway through the year, we'll probably reduce it 50% of what that reduction would have been for the second half, the first half, so that it will be a flat rate for the whole year. I'm not sure if there's any other questions, or I'm sure there's many questions because we receive phone calls about this all the time about what have we spent money on and what have we used the funds for over the last couple of years. We had the water tanks were replaced. Instead of having them refurbished and painted for about $120,000, $140,000, we had them replaced because they had major leaks. From the time we looked at them to get them painted to the time we were going to get them painted, we had the major leaks happen. So we had them replaced at $400,000, $480,000 instead of the $150,000 we anticipated. We also had some major equipment in the sewer plant, like rotors and the oxidation ditch and so forth go down. We had to have them refurbished, and sand filters and so forth at the different plants. So those are some of the major pieces of equipment that we've had over the last 3 years be replaced.
Okay, Levon, stand there so you can respond to whatever questions are being directed by the public.
My name is Linda Bonord, and I live at Eagles Ridge. And actually, I mostly want an education from Levon and you all because I've kind of been ignoring this since I moved here 15 years ago. Why is it that Southeast cannot have a unified water district
When you say unified,
like Carmel has?
okay.
The major reason is because of the reservoir system. There is no actual way to pipe efficiently and cost effectively to pipe all these different areas together. It would cost more to actually try to pipe these together than it would be to have them operate independently.
Millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, I get it. I just wanted it said out loud.
If they had done it way back when, it would have been easier like Carmel did, but unfortunately here in this town, it didn't happen that way. You know, developers, there was a rule of 49 homes, what was it, 49 homes?
subdivision. Yeah.
was a subdivision. If it went to 51, you'd have to provide water or sewer, it varied. And
Otherwise, you just have wells, individual wells and septic. Yep.
Well, and Eagles Ridge started out with a well, as far as I know.
Well, it did. And Brewster Heights, they had wells, but unfortunately, the one in Brewster Heights, was it contaminated in the end, Levon?
What's that?
The wells that they had originally. Why did they, what
In
happened to the
Eagles
wells?
Ridge?
Well, both of them, even Brewster Heights.
Brewster Heights, they had, the individual homes, I'm not sure, we don't really have documentation of when that was changed over to the water plant. But Eagles Ridge, their wells actually weren't producing enough water for the residents, so they kept on going dry. So they annexed into Brewster Heights Water District as part of that process. And that's actually at the same time when they were annexed in, it's about the same time we were finishing building the new treatment plant to take water out of the reservoir, as opposed to the wells in the back of the current plant.
Okay, next question is, it sounded like $200 worth of coverage that the township gave us.
Ma'am, can you just speak into the mic, you'd be able to hear you and the public could too then?
I'm sorry, I thought I was doing both. He had mentioned, I thought in my head I added up $200,000 worth of money that was basically covered for our water sewer district because we were spending more than we were taking in. Is that a round figure? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Was this financial situation shown in some way, shape, or form to the residents that they actually were incurring a debit over the years?
No, it was not. And I don't know why it was not, but almost every district we have runs either plus or minus.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't notify them of that. We basically kind of do it in-house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we did it, we'd have to charge you, okay? And knowing that the bills, the bonds and everything were gonna be paid, they did not do that. But if you think that's what we should do, we could notify them, because some, especially Peaceful Hill, it ran at a deficit for a long time, and they were unaware of it, and unfortunately, when I got here, I had to be the bearer of bad news. Actually,
Yeah.
I've been the bearer of bad news since I got here. But they were,
For what it's worth, and you may all agree with me anyway, full disclosure is always a good idea for people who are voting for you or paying your taxes. I mean, it's just important to communicate the truth as it happens. And we don't really have to deal with a fourth estate. We can think with our heads and say, okay, you know, when I'm on budget billing at NYSEG, and I see that I consistently am paying less than what I'm running in my gas bill, I know that my bill's going to go up. I see that happening, and I think that full disclosure in this going forward would be a really good idea.
well, Levon's gonna go, but what we found with a lot of the districts and people is they don't like this, going like this every year. This year, it's,
No,
well,
let me explain something also, is that we do send out an annual letter to every resident of every district and explains the financials. So inside there, one, at the beginning, there's actually a line that says whether or not the revenues were sufficient or non-sufficient for the year. And I don't have the letters with me right now, but I believe that for the last couple of years, we've put in there that they were not sufficient. I know that we have put that.
but maybe not the
And I
amount.
believe, huh?
Did you put the amount?
No, but I believe that we also put in there that because of the bonds were gonna be paid off in 2015, that's why the rates weren't raised. I'm not 100%, but I know that we did put in there that they weren't sufficient funds and that we were short budget for those couple of years.
Okay, well, that's just one girl's opinion. I do believe that the disclosure that was made 6 years ago in the letter, when we pay off the bonds, we're hoping to reduce unless something catastrophic happens. Well, we could almost predict that something catastrophic would happen. This is a, 70-year-old system, more than that? So it's just good sense that you're going to run into capital expenditures on a continuous basis. And to find out that painting a tank is $400,000 instead of $200,000, it shouldn't be something that, first of all, did we get quotes? Second of all, it shouldn't be something that should come as a knock you off your feet surprise. if you've had any kind of contractor come into your house in the last 10 years, you find out that the thing you thought was going to cost you $500 is $1,000. So I really think that in the communication going forward, making kinds of promises about, well, we hope to see those things go down, people automatically say, oh, good, you know, we're going to save $200 a year, or $500 a year, whatever. It's not going to happen. It's going to be great in 2017 if things go down, but
Well, this year, things will be going down $200. But
Yes.
based on the numbers that Levon just
yes,
said.
but for my friends who are fixed income widows paying the same $500 a quarter as my neighbors who have 4 children and 2 dogs, and they're, you know, they're seeing this rate that compared to the rest of the state, the region, not compared to our district, obviously, our district has problems, but they're comparing themselves to what they knew where they lived before or what their cousin paid or whatever. I just really think people need to be educated about the challenges of a really old water system. They need to be told about perhaps errors in judgment about forecasts, and they need to have some sort of promise or open communication about here's how we're going to prevent this from happening going forward if we can. I just, you know, I'm not angry about the 61% increase in O&M. I'm really not. I understand what you just said, but the fact is that there are people who can't afford it the way I can afford it. And they're going to have to, like, give their cats dry food instead of wet food, and probably make some other cuts that are even more telling because their water bill is not going down the way they expected. Everything else is going up. I'm just trying to put this in. If people would communicate, then you could say, look, we told you, we're sorry, it's not pretty. We've been trying to protect you from the truth, but that was wrong. We are not going to protect you from the truth from now on, so you can make your own choices in planning for the future.
Okay, Levon, Levon, go about the protection.
First of all, these weren't promises. It never said that we promised to reduce it. At that time, they had the same thing that's going on right now. There was an outcry of what's going on. And at that time, the supervisor, it wasn't Tony, said, let's get information on what the current situation is. And at that time, this is the current information. And we put in there a disclosure that unforeseen circumstances, because we know, just like you said, that there will be unforeseen circumstances on an age system. We all know that. We don't know what the system or what the amount was going to be. And people were asking, what is it going to be? We want to know, what is it going to be? If there's no problems, this is what it could be. And with this known, at that time, we knew what the reduction in the bond was going to be. We didn't reduce it 100% because we knew that there was going to be issues between then and now. So we tried to do the exact same thing you're saying. Exactly. There's not an increase of O&M of 61%. That district owes the town $200,000. That money is going towards that debt. So if you want to say to yourself, O&M raised $200,000, you can. That's artificial. Statistics and numbers can be changed no matter how you want to look at it. The fact is that the district owes the town over $200,000, and instead of putting an additional line there of what the district owes the town, we just lumped it into O&M because it's easier to give people, look at, this is what it's costing. This is the debt based on bonds, and this is what it's costing O&M. And it is kind of operation and maintenance because it's the cost that we've incurred over the last 3 years of operation and maintenance that wasn't paid by the district at that time. It was covered by the town. So realistically, the O&M had went up the last 3 years, and we never increased it. It might have gone up 5% or 6%, but when you accumulate that over time, now to pay that back all in 1 year or the next 6 quarters, yes, it's going to be a 61% increase. And we want to get that paid back so that we can start to reduce it more. And there's actually other things that are going on in the plant that have to be upgraded. If we were to give a letter to the residents every single time something happened in the plant that cost more than $5,000, you would probably get a letter every month, because that plant costs tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to operate. And pumps go down on a regular basis, piping breaks, mechanicals break all the time. To explain that, the town is obligated to maintain a system to the regulatory agencies like DEP and Department of Health. We have to do it. It's not like we'd make a choice to do it because we want to go out there and have a contractor come in today to put a nice shiny pump in. We do it because we're required to. So there are times when there's an emergency, when 1 or 2 pumps go down at the same time, the same week, and we have to get those done today. We can't wait for 5 or 6 contractors to give us prices. We have to get it done today. So there are times when there's emergencies that we have to go out and get the most ready contractor.
Now, one thing I have to make very clear to everyone, the town does not make 1 penny on these districts. Every penny that's spent on the district or collected from the district goes to the district. Now, Mr. Bedrosian is the overseer of the district, and he's responsible for whatever. A portion of his salary is paid by every one of the water and sewer districts on a percentage basis, okay? We don't take $5 extra, okay? And a lot of people think, oh, you're making money on us. We're not making money. Every penny goes back to the district. Some people have a fairly good surplus because, one has a recreation, they have tennis courts or something like that, and it's going to cost $60,000 or $70,000. Well, over a 5-year period, Levon's figured out it's going to take $50,000 to $60,000, and and at the end of the 5-year term, it's there, and then it's paid for. Once that's done, there's always something breaking with these places. I mean, it's not fun. But I just don't want people to think in any way that the town makes money. Now, we have to pay contractors to maintain the system, all the testing, to send out water testing. There's that, the people who actually take the water to get it tested, which is, say, JCO, et cetera. I mean, they all contract. We go to the lowest bidder, okay? Everything's put out the bid. The chemicals put out the bid. And when we buy chemicals, we don't just buy it for Brewster Heights, we buy it for all. Now, if Brewster Heights went out and just bought it on their own, they might pay $10. And combine it, we might get it for $9.50.
Right.
So every effort is taken by the special districts coordinator, who gets beat up all the time along with myself and sometimes the town board members. But we really, really do try.
Okay.
And I just wish we could I can't say we can't do better, because no matter how good you do, you can always say do better.
Oh, sure.
But there's things that we just beyond our control.
Absolutely. And I actually wanted to provide a forum for that to be heard, and I also wanted to learn and hear myself. I recently joined the governance at Eagles Ridge, and we're having a problem with homeowners not paying their dues. And we still have to fix roof leaks and potholes and all of the other things. And what I know you can't convince everyone of the logic of it, but if we begin to disclose to those people every couple of months, this is what we spent your money on. And this is, yes, it was $400,000, but we took bids, and guess what? The other ones were $12,000. Then I feel like my homeowners that I am governing can't really come to me and say, that was a stupid decision. No, it wasn't a stupid decision. I fixed your roof so you don't have a water leak in your living room. And I really think that in today's world, we are not communicating enough. We're just making the decisions and saying we don't want to ruffle the waters. But the fact is that that's going to come back and bite me, and it's going to come back and bite you all. It has come back and bite you. And I had no doubt that there were legitimate expenses here to justify the decisions that were made. I was very disappointed when I heard that we have been going in further and further debt without knowing it until recently.
Well, but he said it was.
You got a letter for the last 2 years.
The last 2 years, and how many years have we been incurring debt?
2 years plus this year. That's 30 years. This year you didn't get the letter yet. It will come out in January.
So every time we did?
Every district for every year has received the annual letter. It goes out every January explaining to you the budget, the rates, when the flushing is going to be taking place, and all of the other important information that you're talking about. All that's in there. And the funny thing is that we send that out every year. We also send out a garbage flyer every year. I know it's off task, but let me just explain it. We send out a garbage flyer. It's 12 pages. You know, every year we get the same people call me up and ask me when their bulk pickup is, what days that recycling is, where can they get rid of the electronics, what goes in bulk pickup, what's restricted. All of that's in the brochure. We mail it every single year, and we get probably 1,000 to maybe 1,500 calls a year about those things, and maybe even more. And the same things you're talking about that's in the annual letter, we mail it out every year in January, and every March, June, July, August, October, we get people asking, where was the money spent? How was it spent? The thing is what you're talking about doing an annual doing a bi-monthly newsletter, that takes time to compile. And now we're adding more and more layers of tasks and so forth to try to put these newsletters, because it's not just Brewster Heights. We have 3 sewer plants and 8 water districts. And if we did that for every one, that's every other month, you're talking about, okay, now we're going to start getting more phone calls too. Why did you spend $10,000 on a pump? Well, that's what it goes for. Why did research? I found it for $8,000. Well, you want to know something? The research proven over time, that pump that you've looked up on the web for $8,000 is not the same mechanical pump that we have for $10,000. They don't have the same mechanics. They don't meet the same requirements or the load or the head, being able to push the same amount of sewage or water up the hill. We get too many phone calls. You almost make it more complicated and add more layers of expenses when you start talking about more and more information, because like I just said, we send out information and people don't read that. If we give it every 2 months and they don't read that, now we're adding more expenses. And guess, like Tony said, you know who pays for those expenses? You guys do. So we have districts that say, don't mail me anything. I don't want you to mail me more stuff, because every time we mail something, it's more envelopes, more postage, and more paper, and more time, more labor. Don't mail it. Just give me the stuff, once a year. So we have people on both sides. So the town board has to say, what's the most effective and efficient way financially to get everything out to you? And sending the annual letter explains the whole entire budget to you and all the information you're asking for. I don't know what else you would want us to do. I know what you're saying about every month, but you're just making it more complex, and it's going to make it more expensive.
Lavana, your letters that you send out yearly, are they on the webpage?
Yes, they're on the website.
Okay. So when you go home, I believe if you go to your website tonight and you go home, I think you'll find them. Do they go back over a period of time? Do they come off each year? How do you do it? We should never take anything off the web. I'd rather that webpage just go on and on and on.
I think before I started working here, they never put any of that up on the web, and it was only, 4 years.
They didn't have a web when you started here.
Yeah. So I think 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, we started putting things up on the web, because up until that point, the only things on the special district web were the basic information. Because they mailed everything out at that time, previous town boards, I was told, because everybody's getting a paper copy, internet and the web pages weren't the same as they are today. Today, everybody goes to the web for everything. So now we put all those up there. We keep them up there. We never take them without.
Okay. So when she goes home tonight, she might be able to find that.
And I will share it. And I thank you for giving me this extended period of time. I really appreciate Lavana especially being willing to answer these questions on the fly in this forum, and for you entertaining it. I totally understand how discouraging it is to have something you spend a lot of time preparing to help people get ignored. But let me tell you, that trash bulletin gets taped above my kitchen garbage every year. Okay, so I think that I'm in the majority. I actually pay attention. But the water one, I have a master's degree, and I find it very difficult to understand. And so I just forward it to my tax accountant and say, please take care of anything that you need to see. I don't understand it, and I don't know why, but maybe, that could be improved, because I actually do look at it, I read it, my eyes gloss over, and even with my advanced education, I don't get it. So maybe we could at least improve that communication. I will, as a board member in Eagles Ridge, make sure that our internal communication disseminates information where people can get more information on the utilities that support us, that are supplied to us, garbage and water. I will make that commitment to you, and I do thank you for this. I thank you for making every effort that you've made, and I'm really sorry for my neighbors harassing you the way that they have, but I understand.
That's what we get paid for, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm starting to get the receiving end of that as well. So I just want to say thank you and appreciate it.
Sir in the back, did you want to speak to this as well? The gentleman in the back? Anyone else on item number 2, which is the water district billing?
I just wanted to thank Levon. I asked for this to be on the agenda. I believe the gentleman I've talked to numerous times is in the audience. I don't want to say his name, just in case. And I promised him that I'd get it on the agenda and that I would share with you all his concerns. And I asked Levon to do a lot of the heavy lifting and help answer the questions, because it's just beyond my scope. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay, thank you, Levon. Enjoy the evening. Okay, third item on the agenda will be food trucks. I'm hungry. Okay, Bob, this is your baby.
Just let them move.
Okay.
The town board got some requests from a couple of restaurants in Southeast that have food trucks, and they want to expand their business where they would be able to sell food at various locations in the town of Southeast. Throughout the country now, food trucks are a new thing, and the food trucks are very fancy and have all sorts of food on it. If you go down to Manhattan, you see all sorts of stuff. Currently, the town board, the town of Southeast, the ordinance is that only veterans are allowed to have food trucks. So we did get a request, and we reached out to people and asked people to give us their thoughts. We received a couple of emails from some residents supporting food trucks. We spoke to the town planner, myself and Peter Bell, who took an interest in this, and we came up with some proposals, some things that we think if we allow this, that we should do. We're mainly concerned with safety. We don't want to put other, where the trucks are parked, to make sure people have safe ingress with their vehicles, that litter is picked up, that there's some sort of minimum distance that a food truck would be from a brick and mortar established restaurant. We don't want to put, obviously, an existing business out of business by having a food truck parked like right in front of it. We're talking about hours of regulation, and this is nothing set in stone. This is just what we thought was good. Maybe like 5 a.m. in the morning for places like the train station, when a lot of commuters start taking the trains to the city, to like maybe 9 p.m. at night. And then they would have to take the trucks with them, not leave them at the location, make sure the litter's all picked up, any signage or anything all has to be removed every night and can be put back the next morning. So nothing set in stone. Obviously, would like any other input from the town board, the public, if this is something we'd want to allow or not. There is we could possibly make not that much money, but if we license these trucks, there would be a money value to the town as far as licensing fees. So that's basically it for now.
Okay,
Anyone have any
I'll
other?
let my fellow board members, because I have some other things I'd like to share, and I'll provide you and Peter with my list, but I'd like to go over with the board, so I'll let the other board members go first.
I mean, I like the idea. I think Steve Mattson wrote in, and he said that this could be a good, niche market for us, you know, again, not that we're gonna make a lot of money off of this, but I kind of like the idea of just that, you know, it's something a little unique to the town and whatnot. And I think I have the same concerns and the same questions that have been raised before and that will probably be raised tonight, is, you know, regarding insurance and, like, how did we, I'm making it up, I think I saw somewhere that you wrote seven permits, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying, how did we come up with that number? Is, you know, did we talk to Ashley to just kind of say what areas in town are suitable? And, you know, maybe it's whatever, Markel Park, the Metro North Station, and all that. Maybe that number comes out to 7, or is there a potential that there's, you know, 10 spots? Well, I'd like to start slow anyway and see how it works out.
And there is nothing set in stone
Right,
here.
yeah.
I think it was kind of an in-between, not an exact in-between, but of 5 permits to 10 permits, so we just kind of said like 7 to start off. I mean, we don't want obviously food trucks in every corner.
No, of
We're not
course
gonna
not.
issue 100. You know,
Again,
like
I'm
I
not
s- right.
criticizing,
No,
I just wanted to.
Right, but there's no set reason why we're 7.
And like, I wouldn't want to see a food truck at the Metro North Station from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Like, I can understand, like, kind of, you're a breakfast truck.
Right.
5 a.m. to 9 a.m. maybe, that's it, pack it up, go home. The same with, like, if it was a lunch truck, you know, maybe 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 11 to 3, maybe a 4-hour window.
Right. But we're talking about generally the licensing would be from
Oh.
5 a.m. for like the train station. I think the first train that leaves out of Southeast is like 4:30, so,
Right.
you know, figure gets there at 5, and, right, obviously, after 9 in the morning, there's really no business there. So
Yeah,
he's not
I
gonna
thought I
be
heard
there.
you say 9 p.m., so that got me
Well, we're
nervous.
thinking of like other locations
Yeah,
maybe that,
okay.
like parks in the summertime or whatever. that
Right,
they-
absolutely.
Right,
Or again, it could be kind of like a seasonal one, you know, like
right.
the good humor guy, you know, clearly he wants to sell ice cream all day, you know, in the summer.
Right, and he's not gonna drive around in February.
Exactly.
So,
All right, thank you.
A few questions, and I'm going to be very interested to hear the public input on this.
We will have a, once this has been aired out by the board and we get something, we will have a public hearing on the
Right.
issue.
Did you talk about signage, for example, on the trucks? Would they be subject to the same signage rules as brick and mortar?
most of the trucks usually, it's like a vinyl seal or whatever, where they would have a design. We're talking about like temporary signs, you know, that they put on the side of the road saying, you know, food truck here, or, you know.
Right, but since we make brick and mortar go through the ARB, and I'm not saying that we necessarily want more regulations, but is it fair for them to spend the money when the food trucks don't have to? It's just a question, I don't expect an answer tonight. My other concern was, I asked where the closest town that allows food trucks, and it was Beacon, which I think is a really different area. That doesn't mean it's not, wouldn't be good here. And would they have to indemnify the town? I'm concerned about people more than brick and mortar, because there aren't going to be real parking spaces. People will just pull off and pull back on. And I know the town's going to so designate, but it would be my concern that we could open ourselves up to litigation.
Well, we're thinking of, that a lot of these food trucks would park in private property and make an arrangement with the landlord of the property owner. As far as any town location where they would be, we were also saying that they would have to probably pay some sort of fee to the town to operate on town property, just like I'm sure they would pay a fee to a landlord to operate on town property. You know, nothing's set in stone yet, you know, it's just at the discussion phases, but obviously they would have to be insured, and I would anticipate, you know, they would have to, wherever they're parked, they would have to provide insurance. They'd also have to have insurance to get the health department license, which they currently do, when they operate in Putnam County.
And then how would we decide what private property would be okay for this? I'm a little puzzled by that, I guess.
Well, obviously it would be commercial property, not residential, and, you know, that's all something that's gotta be decided where they would be.
Okay. And I do want to thank you, Bob, for doing all the work on this. I really do appreciate it.
I'm more or less wondering if any of this has been run by Willis
in terms of making certain that there is no issue regarding discrimination, who gets these permits? Why is it that I wouldn't get the permit because hypothetically, I'm number 8? Why as number 8 am I not getting a permit when the previous 7 happened? And, just a host of legal issues. I suppose what I can gather that we have to first hone in on what we would like to do and then perhaps speak to Willis about it. But, what Lynn brought up is like with the signage, exactly what is it, what's the difference between the mortar and brick establishments as we're saying it and their signage review as opposed to a truck review? Bob had provided, at one point, he was down in Manhattan and he provided a picture of one of the trucks. I think it was like a seafood truck almost. And it was very attractive, the truck itself was attractive, but that, what else would there be? And would and also liability, with the liability to the town, certainly. If we're going to have someone on the town premises, what is that liability? What would be the indemnification? What kind of insurance? Those kinds of things.
Right, currently, we do have veterans that operate food trucks, and they
Right.
operate on town property. do they provide us with any
Right.
liability
That-
insurance?
I
or-
mean, that's the thing, I'm thinking
I
now.
don't think they do, right? Michelle?
Well, I
Are they
mean,
on town property, though? Because the one on 312, that would not be town
The
property.
only one that was on town property was one up at the lake.
Okay, so none of the others are.
And I
Well,
don't
there
know-
was a hot dog guy operating on,
Mount
near the
Eva.
post office, right,
Yeah.
in front of Scapino
I
Park.
don't know if that's our property though.
No, he was parked in the park, on the
I mean-
entrance.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's technically ours. I don't know.
I mean, also, in terms of, renewable for 6 months, the fees, I think that's great with the permit fees. I think that veterans should be exempt from the permit fees. I just don't, hours of operation, would it be hours of operation 5 AM to 9 PM for all food trucks? Or would it be, certain food trucks would have from 5 to 6, or, I mean, the hours, some of the hours seems kind of, that's a wide breadth of hours.
Right, well,
So-
I would imagine it would depend on what type of food truck. Obviously, if it's a breakfast type of food truck, they'd be operating in the morning.
But we would regulate it and say, well, if
Well-
you're a breakfast truck, you only go from 5 to 12, or,
I
things
mean,
like that.
right, we didn't get into that yet. We're
Yeah,
just
okay.
throwing stuff out there for now.
Yeah, because right now, I think the one at Brewster Shell, that one is open for breakfast and lunch, isn't it?
He has, yeah, I don't think he's been coming for breakfast
Okay.
anymore, but
Oh,
he
okay.
was originally there for
Oh,
breakfast, and then left, and then came back for lunch.
Okay.
But I have not noticed him there early in the morning anymore, so I don't know. I think
And
that's
then
a
just
business
sort of
decision.
regulate it, so what we're talking about is food, so all of a sudden, it's not going to become something else,
Right.
you know?
And obviously, right, we're talking about food, we're not talking about furniture from North
Right,
Carolina or
exactly,
anything like
right.
that.
So this portion of, okay, I don't know, you ready?
No, I'm done, go ahead.
Okay, so technically, it's gonna be food only. We're not gonna talk food/vending like the local honey truck, so to speak?
The local one?
Well,
The honey truck, there's a honey truck up on
yes,
312.
right.
I mean, we're talking about food, but I mean,
Well-
I guess honey is food to a degree, you know. He's currently operating because he's a veteran, and he's allowed to do that. But we're specifically talking more about food.
Okay, well, one thing we have to clarify when we do it, whether it's food/vending, and and then I'm talking about furniture from North Carolina,
Right.
they can keep it down in North
Yes.
Carolina and not pretty up the sides of our road
Right.
with the signs they were putting up all over. Okay, so I'm gonna give this to you, and then you guys can decide, and what you've heard tonight, you're gonna come back and do the next round. So my question is, right now we license, so is the town going to issue a license or a permit? We have to decide. All license or permit holders shall be required to obtain a town-issued photo ID. Okay, now I want that because, I hate to say it, there's games being played with our current system, okay? And I'll get into that in a minute. I believe if we're gonna keep the current rules, that veterans should have the first right of refusal of a site, okay? Now, what I suggested, if we have veterans, and there's only gonna be 7 sites, there's 12 months in a year, And not a lot of people are gonna be working there in January and February, although if they're gonna be selling something down at the train station, they're gonna probably be down there 365 days a year. So we have some problems with, whatever, I'll explain it. So I'm saying, if you're a veteran, how do we, you know what, I don't know if it's in order, do you mind if I jump around here? Because I tried to put it in order, but once I put it in order, it didn't make sense with the other order. So I believe the veterans should have the first right, because that was the original intent of the law, okay? And even with the state, the veterans, it's disabled veterans that have this right. When the town made their local law, they included all veterans, which was inclusive, which maybe is better, because, you know, if there's not a disabled veteran, a veteran should be allowed to do that. So I'm saying that during the months of January and February, that veterans be given the first choice of a site, if it's on town property. However, let's say I continued on my store on Route 6, and, I mean, I had a deli there and a pizzeria, so I wouldn't have put one there, but let's say it didn't have one. It would be open, I don't necessarily have to let a veteran there if I didn't want to. I mean, if it's on a personal property, commercial, they're gonna dictate, like, you're my friend, you own the gas station, you're gonna say, sure, you can sell it here, but he doesn't know the veteran guy, and he wants you to have it. So, some of them are gonna be picking their own locations. Along the road, there's one up on 312 where the honey truck is, there's also a hot dog truck there. So who gets that? So we have to determine, how does that work? And the fact that he was there this year, is he automatically get it for next year? I mean, once you build up a clientele, there used to be a guy over where McDonald's currently is now, way back when, in the late 60s, okay? When I got back from the service, there were guys that called Michael Hot Dogs. And man, he had the best hot dogs, I'm telling you. No one has them as good as he was. But anyway, he was right where actually McDonald's is. It was a piece of land, I don't know how he got it. Eventually, I heard McDonald's was buying that piece of property, and he moved up next to the sewer treatment plant. And boy, he didn't have many customers after he moved there, I'm telling you right now. Because it's still bad, it's still bad over there. That's up where the gymnasium thing is, like there, and that little back road there. So January to February, if it's a town-owned, but we can't dictate to someone that they have to have a veteran or not. So if it's on town property, January and February, after that, it opens up to anybody. That's the way to give the first right of refusal. Because, you know, say a guy comes in on December 1st, and they want to do something where we are, well, on January 1st, well, no one even knew. Well, I asked first. So when do we wait to let that person go in? When does a veteran lose his chance, and when does the other person have his? So 2 months. These are just thrown out for ideas, okay? Because I hate the idea to start, but I'm trying to help you. After that, the general public has the right to secure a site. So, and then March 1st to December 31st is the time limit. Because no matter what, when the license is issued, it's based on a calendar year, okay? If a guy comes in June, it doesn't go June to June. That screws up all the bookkeeping, whatever. So we have a calendar year, okay? So a veteran goes the first 2 months, and then the rest of the world goes the next 10 months, okay? I say here, all licenses or registrations, whatever we call, will expire on the last day of December of each year, regardless of the date issued. I have here, and you have in here as well, something about permits granted to town of Southeast businesses / residents first, and then you have only. I'm not sure we want to invite the world to come to the town of Southeast to do it, so I had Southeast residents, okay? Now, if you want to expand it to Southeast businesses, I suppose, I mean, you know, but again, I don't, how far are we going to go? You know, you're going to go, again,
Well, I think if an established restaurant has a food truck from Southeast, like Brewster Bakery, pastry shop is interested.
I know, does he have one now though?
He has a trailer which he goes to fairs and events with, but it's.
He doesn't live in Southeast, but, so you have
I
on
don't know where
yours,
he lives, but-
but on yours, you say Southeast resident or business. Okay, so you can keep that or change it, modify it accordingly. Now, again, I said earlier, well, site locations come with automatic renewals. That's something, I mean, it's up to the property owner to make that decision. Peter, I'm gonna be a bit, so if you want to just sit for a bit and stand in a bit. I think all licenses and permits should be owner-operated only. The intent of our law with the veterans was for a veteran who sometimes can't get a job or whatever, and, you know, we all appreciate what veterans did. I was one, I know people constantly tell me, you know, because I have USMC on my plate, they're very appreciative. When I go to Lowe's, Home Depot, or whatever, you show your veteran card and they give you a discount, and they always say, thank you for your service, and I really appreciate that. And I know all veterans do. You know, we save on our taxes, and it's greatly appreciated. But, again, it should be owner-operated. I don't want a veteran or to use another veteran and whether to employ, because now you're going to start franchising these things. In other words, one veteran will come in and say, oh, I want this spot, okay? Now, if it's a private property, we don't really have a say in the matter. And it's not going to be just for veterans, it'll be for everyone. But if we do it, a veteran, we still should issue whatever, and then if it's on private property, I suppose you could let someone else run it, but we still should have an owner-operated ID tag for their employees or whatever, because we're kind of responsible. We're giving a license out. We mentioned a particular, whatever, let me go into further. I said no surrogates. In a town, we will not allow surrogates. In other words, if a veteran does it, the veteran has to be in the unit, okay? And if not, right now the veteran's supposed to be in there, but it's not happening, okay? They're using, you know, I'll use the word surrogate. They're using someone else that may be a veteran, but is not the person. I don't want the person to, you know, start making money on this. I believe in free enterprise, but I think this is getting carried a bit too much. Now, I would strongly recommend prohibiting outside seating. Now, I've done a lot of work on this already, and at the next meeting, I'll show you some pictures as to why I have some of what I have written here tonight. So, prohibit outside seating, because, I mean, I don't know, depends on the size, and I'll get into something that Lynn had touched on. All permittees, I believe, should be required to have the town as additional insured and with $1 million liability policy. Again, Liz, did I say Lynn or Liz? I get the L's mixed. Did I say Lynn the first time?
You did the first time.
Okay, now I mean Liz.
Okay.
You know, this has to get run by Will, because we have to find out what our responsibility. If we issue a license to someone and someone gets hurt, they're gonna say, you idiot, what did you put it there for? Well, it was on private property, but we issued the license. So if our name is associated, stamped with something, we may have a liability. And you know what, if they have insurance, which most every hot dog truck or food truck or whatever probably has, most places don't charge you for additional insured, okay? Now, I know a couple of years ago, they would charge you $50 or $100. So I think we should, no matter what we do, we should be listed as an additional insured just to protect the town and its residents. Now, if a food truck is located on a pre-approved site plan, i.e. developed parcel, the owner of the parcel should be required to go back to the planning board and amend the site plan. Now, almost every parcel in this town, commercial, has a site plan, okay? And if it's a restaurant, you have to provide so many seats, so many parking spaces. And this here, we have, I don't want to use a gas station, let me use, I don't know, my old store. Okay, I'll pick up my old store. Now, when I had that, I had 6 units that I subdivided an old bowling alley into, okay? And it was a restaurant, it is one now, but you have to provide so many spaces for each type of business that you have there, okay? Now, my parking was maxed out based on what I wanted to put in there. Now, I might have put in a restaurant, I wanted a restaurant, I put it in my plan, so when that restaurant moved in, which was never there, I had a hairdresser there and a couple other things, and then I had I won't say fast food, but it was like a barbecue place, and now there's a real restaurant, because when people come into a restaurant, they sit there, park the car kind of forever. So, but my site plan was approved. Now, if I have a site plan that says I have to have 50 spaces, and I've already used my 50 spaces, and I want to plop a hot dog truck out in front of my place, well, I violated my site plan. We make all the businesses that change their site plans. Now, Dunkin' Donuts on Route 6 going toward Danbury on the left-hand side there. I don't know. He moved his septic, which we approved a piece of parcel for him. He moved his septic up there, and where his septic was, he couldn't park cars before, but he wanted to, and I guess he started clearing it out, put down some item 4 or something, and he got picked off by the town. you know, you're changing your site plan, you're gonna have to come back for a site plan approval to get 6 additional spaces for his business. I guess he could use them. The deli out on Route 3, out by 312, he went through a site plan and came back and asked for additional parking, whatever. So when the site plan is approved, whether it's a deli or whatever the complex, a gas stations in particular, you know, gas stations, they sell, some of them sell food, some of them have convenience stores not selling food, but hot, you know, potato chips, pretzels, milk, beer. They fix cars, they rent trucks, they maybe fix cars and sell them, and then you put a hot dog truck there. Well, you know what? It gets a little bit overcrowded. So I do believe that we should, if it's something that's been approved by the planning board, go back for a site plan review, because then we know that it qualifies for what they're attempting to do. Because you're trying to fit 10 pounds of shrimp in a 5-pound bag. I want that shrimp, but it doesn't fit in the bag.
But will it be in a food truck?
I don't know, depends on the seafood. Okay, I believe, and then when I show you my little, I went online, I liked your food truck, Bob, and I found some really nice food trucks, but guess what I also found?
Bad one.
Some really ugly food
sure
trucks.
they
So
are.
I've got a whole bunch of them, and I'm gonna recommend that any food truck be required, we can, you know, to go to the ARB and just show them their truck. I was gonna bring it tonight, I said, well, let's deal with round 1, we'll deal with the next round. I wanna show you some of the stuff that's out there. This thing looks like a walking billboard, and it's absolutely everything this town is against, but it's a food truck. So ARB looks at, I mean, look at it. There's some nice ones and there's some really ugly ones. And I don't always agree with everything the ARB does because they tell me I can't have a pink door. Well, I want a pink door. But whatever, I think the ARB should be involved in it. All food trucks and our accessory trailer, because not all trucks, some
Right.
tow them behind them, shall be required to provide the necessary documentation, which we already have some of this already. They're required to produce their license, okay, to drive it, the registration, inspection, and identify the fact that it's insured, okay? Now, that part, we don't have to have additional insured, but wherever they park it, I think we should be additional insured prior to be issuing a license or permit. Now, right now, what goes on with the Department of Health issuing a permit, it's kind of like who's on first. The Department of Health wants to know if we've, kind of approved it. Well, we can't approve it until the Department of Health. So we're gonna have to have something, let the truck get approved maybe by the Department of Health, or do we give them the site and you go get the food truck approved by the Department of Health? Because right now it becomes a problem, doesn't it, Michelle, from time to time? Like, they'll get the permit from the health department, but they gotta identify where the food truck is, but they come to us and say, no, you can't put one there because it's either not ours, you don't have permission to do it. I mean, you just can't pull aside on the side of the road and, pitch your tent. And if at any point in time, the vehicle that we have all this documentation for, like your car is inspected, your food truck's inspected, if something expires while their permit isn't active with the town, they should be made to require to update the document. Like with accidents, I have Lens, anyone that drives a town vehicle, we find out if they've got a moving violation, a parking ticket, their license expired, any type of documentation they provide to the town, if it expires, they should be made to renew that, at least provide us with the documentation to prove that even though my permit to sell hot dogs goes till December, my registration or my insurance ran out in June, that they have to show us that they had it renewed in order to allow them to stay there. And the next meeting we have, then when you start compiling all this, and like I said, I'll send you my comments. I'll ask Michelle to put those together, and then you and Peter can work together, and I guess pick and choose, or whatever you want, but I'd still fight for much of what I just said, and I'll bring some photos to show you why I really believe we have to have some kind of control of what some of these vehicles look like, because there's some pretty bad ones out there. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bell, you're up to the mic, sorry. I didn't want you to stand there for 10 minutes, sorry.
That's fine. Peter Bell. The whole thing you were talking about veterans is, when Bob and I were talking, veterans are basically exempt from the current law and would be exempt from any other law. They wouldn't be paying permit fees, which we put in here specifically saying that they don't pay. So, you know, the idea that we're trying to do something with veterans or move veterans out is absolutely incorrect. The other thing is too, Tony, you're talking about getting approval from the ARB. Right now, the honey guy has grass growing underneath his cart. He hasn't moved that cart for months. And under this law, would say that he's gotta move it every night,
Go ahead,
which it
Ron.
should be.
Yep.
And that's the way it should be, but he hasn't moved his
But
for,
it's not the law. Can't make them do it.
understood, my
But I think
point
he's saying
being,
this would improve the situation for everything. maybe.
Not-
Correct.
Look, you have good ideas. I think there's a lot of other good ideas put forward on the table tonight as well.
okay,
Here's can I make a comment on?
sure.
I really have a problem with some of the veterans are doing. Because some of the veterans are using surrogates. I mean,
Agreed.
my uncle was a veteran. I'm not a veteran, okay? And I got an uncle. Well, Uncle Bob, go get me my license. I don't have to pay. And it's gonna happen. So if a veteran goes in, they produce their ID and they run the truck.
Well, that's happening now.
No, it's not. It's supposed to be, but it's not, I would say, more than 50% of the time. Because I know that the person in there, you know, the
Well,
guy.
there's only
was-
2 food trucks, so 50% is one.
Okay, well, it's not being, no, and in the local honey truck, I'm gonna say the same thing.
He's a veteran.
Not always. Not always. Again, if we issued, I wanted owner, operator. That makes the difference.
We also, the thing that I was listening when you were saying all the different things you wanted to do, which are fine, and that's something that's got to be put together. Actually, let me back up a second. What Bob and I came up with is merely an open canvas.
Right.
These are just ideas. They can be adjusted. It could be 5 permits, it could be 10 permits. We absolutely thought that it should be, you know, either a resident in the southeast or a business in the southeast. Just so that you know, that would exempt me from getting a permit, because I don't.
But you're gonna move to Southeast.
Well, I use my father-in-law's.
And you're gonna
address.
join the service to get a veteran permit.
We don't want to make it, if we're going to have food trucks, we don't want to make it onerous on them. We don't want to make it so that who wants to do it because I got to go to the ARB, I got to go to get a site plan review. If they park next to the honey guy, they don't have to do anything. Because it's not town land and it's not private property, it's a state property. So you're going to have 7 food trucks in that piece of property because there's no cost to it and there's no regulation to it. So I think there's a lot of things that we can take from what you were saying, Tony, and put it into a very nice law. Bob and I are also not attorneys. That was one of the things that we very specifically said. Anything that we have here or come up with definitely has to go past Will in order to say, we're doing the right thing.
Like everything
I
we
do
do.
believe that food trucks need liability insurance just to get a health department permit.
Liability, but not naming us as the additional insured.
But if they're, let's say they're at the old garden center, which is private property, why would the town have to have them put you as a named person on their insurance
On
policy?
the additional insured, because we are given, again, that's a
Issue the
question for
permit.
Will. We are
Right.
providing the permit, we are providing the license, whatever we're providing, we are involved, our name is involved. If someone got hurt there, I'm gonna tell you right now, if we gave the permit, we will, we get sued, we will be on that lawsuit.
I'm not an attorney.
I know that's gonna happen.
I have a difference of opinion, but again, that's for Will to decide. I think there's a need here, and I think we can come up with a good law or regulation, taking what you were saying, Tony, and what other people have said. And I think we've come a lot from where we started in August.
Okay,
So
well,
I
next
appreciate
meeting,
everybody's help.
next meeting, we'll provide you with my written comment. We'll put together what Edwin said, Liz and Lynn, and Michelle's got it. Well, I'll send it to you. Now, if you're not ready for the next meeting, don't put it on just whatever. Get something going. But I'm gonna show you some pictures, and you'll have to, hopefully you'll agree that it's gonna require someone to say it's ARB approval, because wait till you see some of these pictures.
I do want to mention that I have given out flyers to most every restaurant in town and had only positive response. You had mentioned Terry at Brewster Pastry, Rich, of course, Steve had sent something in, Las Mañanitas, might be interested in putting together food carts. So I think it's going to be an extension of people's business that are here now, to allow them to sell to more people. But I thank you for the help and keep going.
Peter, I just want to thank you for all the work you obviously put into this. I really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, my pleasure.
And I think probably what we should do too is get Will involved at
Yes.
some level, so you're not chasing.
Pretty much
Yes.
You're
immediately.
not chasing down
Yes.
some kind of an idea
Yeah.
that really is attractive, and then all of a sudden
It
Will
doesn't make
says, oh,
sense.
whoops.
I would do it before the next time you come in, just to verify, you know, maybe we don't need the liability. If you say we don't
Right.
need it,
We don't need it.
but I would talk to them and say, you better think twice.
And maybe talk to Ashley and say, like, is there anything like a, you know, is there any limited ARB approval, or maybe we can even ask Will that. In other words, I get what Tony is saying. You don't want some crazy truck rolling around here. But on the other hand, I'm aware of what you're saying, which is like, and all of a sudden now this, you know, ARB, this approval, that approval.
Who's to
I get
say
it.
what's pretty and what's not?
They
Well,
are.
that too, it's in there.
Trust me, when I show you
They
the
are.
pictures, you're gonna know which one's which.
But I don't know, as a customer, would you want to go to some horrible looking,
But we
dirty
don't control
truck?
that, we have to control.
No,
what
I
they
understand
get.
that, but if I was a customer, I wouldn't want to do that.
But
And
it should be limited, well, you know, we should have that ability, but then, once again, I think that goes to,
I
like,
mean, you
with
want to
Will.
make sure you're going to and that's what the health department does. They do
Yeah.
check the food trucks, the kitchens, and with, you know, make sure everything meets standard and clean and sanitary, and people aren't
It has that big
getting
A in the
sick.
window.
Right, exactly.
When I went upstate, it was probably about 3.5 hours from here. And the builder was gonna show me something he did, which was an hour from where I wanted to build. So the bottom line to the whole story was, I was hungry, and I said, you know, let's stop. Oh, there's a great place up the road. So we're riding by the place, and it was a dump. I couldn't believe it. He said in the wintertime, when they have, you know, the ski, what do you call it, snowmobiles? You can't get near the place. There's hundreds and hundreds of snowmobiles. So on the way back, I didn't want to say anything until we passed it, because I wasn't going to go eat there. Oh, so it's coming up. I went in there. I am telling you now, it was the best food I've ever had in my life. Unbelievable. So it's not always a look, but again, parked on the side of the road, I'm gonna tell you right now, you never would have stopped there in a million years. Never. Old pumps not working, it looked like a ramshackle, but when you got inside, it was really quaint, nice, and the food was outstanding. You would even like it.
They have a dollar.
They didn't have a dollar menu, no.
I'm surprised you went then.
I didn't know the menu.
And, you know, anyone else in the audience that, or at home watching this on TV that wants to get involved or has any ideas, please reach out to me. It's not just, you know, Peter Bell and myself that are, you know, coming up with ideas. We'd like input from as many people as possible.
We just got 4 of us?
No,
All right, see,
exactly.
we're moving on. Okay. Make a motion to go into the regular portion of the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Waive the reading of the correspondence, approval of the voucher list. Time out, you know, I have 2. It was $849,528, wait, $849,528.73. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Setting of the meeting dates and public hearings. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. Thursday, November 5th, 2015. Thursday, November 19th, 2015. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The budget transfers, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to set the public hearing for the 2016 town budget for Thursday, November 5th, 2016.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, certiorari settlement, M&T. Resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast does hereby accept the recommendation of the professional advisors and authorize the town attorney to execute a stipulation of settlement, consent judgment, and or order of consent in accordance with said recommendations for the following. Petitioner, M&T Bank, tax ID number 43.1-1. Year 2015, assessment, $1,252,000. Settled assessment, $1,071,000. And be further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all stipulations, consent orders, or other documents necessary to reflect the foregoing settlements. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 7 is a resolution of certiorari settlement for JXE LLC. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast does hereby accept the recommendations of the professional advisors and authorizes the town attorney to execute a stipulation of settlement, consent judgment, and order of consent in accordance with said recommendation for the following. Petitioner, JXE LLC, tax ID 46.1-6, year 2015, assessment $2,150,000, settled assessment $1,975,000. And be further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all stipulations, consent orders, or other documents necessary to reflect the foregoing settlement. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 8, it's a resolution to adopt water and sewer rates. Resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby accept the recommendations of the special district administrator and establishes the water and sewer rates for each of the town's special improvement districts for the year 2016 as set forth in the schedule of the rates annexed hereto and made part thereof. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 9, a resolution to purchase front loader for the highway department. Now therefore be resolved that the town supervisor be and hereby is authorized to execute a delivery purchase agreement with Vantage Equipment, Inc. for the purchase of a Volvo L90H front loader, serial number 623147, for a price not to exceed $187,603. And be further resolved that the town shall issue highway equipment bonds in the amount not to exceed $125,000 to finance the purchase of foregoing highway maintenance equipment. Let me explain. Our loader died, okay? The repair was going to be really excessive. We were offered in trade $50,000 for the vehicle. We put it out to auction as is and received a bid for $65,000. So we're going to take the $65,000 with the auction, come up with the other $125,000 to purchase it. And as you can see, that comes out to about $190,000. I left a couple extra pennies. We won't spend it if we don't have to, but in case there's something we're, remiss on, we have enough. But it's an emergency that we have to purchase it. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 10, resolution electricity contract with the county. Resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby accepts the proposal of Energy Cooperative America for municipal electric services and authorizes the town supervisor to execute any and all contracts, memoranda, or of agreement, or other documents necessary to employ the services of this vendor in a manner and form as may be approved by the town attorney, and be, bless you.
Thank you.
And be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. We have been with this consortium now for approximately 3 years. We do save some money, but as Bob pointed out to me earlier today, once we go to Solar City, we'll have all of our electricity for there. This is a one-year contract. When I went out to bid, it was either a 3 or a 5 year contract. And the way they bid, 1 year, and then it was like for the full contract. Well, it seemed that the first year was really, really good. And then when it multiplied out to the other 2, 3, and 4 years, it wasn't as good, so we took the bid for the, not we, but the county took the bid for the first portion, and we'll put out the next 3 years thereafter, but by that time, we should not need it. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 11, it's a resolution to the webpage contract. Now therefore be resolved that the town, actually, I have municipal on the.
No, it's Civic Plus.
It's Civic Plus.
Yeah.
I put question mark and I didn't change it, and I thought I had. See the contract. I'm just reading to see what I did here. Okay, the new one, with a revised website construction and service and contract. Anyway, resolved that the town board of town of Southeast hereby accepts the proposal of Civic Plus for municipal website creation, servicing, and hosting in accordance with its servicing and license agreement and authorize the town supervisor to execute any and all contracts, memoranda of agreement, or other documents necessary to employ the services of this vendor in a manner and form as may be approved by the town attorney, and be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Service and hosting, it should be HOSTING, I missed that, sorry. Just so you know that the contract, it's $7,000, and it's $3,000 maintenance per year. Basically, what we're paying for maintenance, we're upgrading the current system, and it's $3,000 a year thereafter for maintenance of the contract. So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I would really like to thank Victoria. I worked with her on this in planning. I think our website really needs an update. This was a great deal. We did interview 3 companies, and I didn't even know it went down to 7,000, so that's really good. And also, I think we get a redesign after about 3 years. So I'm really pleased with this contract. I think we'll have a much more user-friendly website and a lot less cluttered. So I'd really like to thank Victoria for all her work on this.
And I think thanking Victoria for all the work she's done in the past as our master Webster, so to speak. And you know, she's worked very hard, and I think that this is a great idea to help alleviate a little of the difficulties. That, you know, she's done a great job on the website, and I think that from what I'm hearing, this company will do a very good job, and
I think so.
something that we obviously can continue to be proud of.
Do we, what other municipalities use them? Anyone around here? Or do you know?
Yes, I believe, now let me make sure I'm getting them confused, Bob, and it's a really good
I don't
question.
want to put you on the spot.
No, you know, I'm thinking maybe, I know one company, well, the first company does, that we had before does lots, and then the one company did Pound Ridge in Lewisboro. And this company does do something locally, and if it's not those two, I apologize, but I can get that to you.
I'm just curious. I'd like to, go to their website. and
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just to make sure, does everyone have a number 12 being the ARB recommendation for
Yes.
gasoline petroleum?
Yes.
Okay, because I printed one, I had the old one. That's
No,
why-
I have the old one.
Yeah. You have
Thanks.
the old one too? Yeah. Okay, well, you and I got the old ones, we're
Okay.
old, that's why.
Yeah, thanks.
Younger generation after that, okay. Number 12, resolution to ARB recommendation gasoline petroleum. Now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby accepts and approves a report of the Architectural Review Board dated May 28, 2014, a copy of which is annexed hereto and made part hereof, in connection with the application of gasoline petroleum, that such report shall be incorporated in any final site plan subsequently reviewed by the planning board. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, supervisor's report. Almost no change from last month's report. Again, we prepare good budgets, we hold to it. Again, the outside attorney line. We were in court with one today, I have to tell you about when we're done, it was really funny. The outside attorney line is over the budget, but again, we don't know what to budget, because you have no idea what you're gonna get sued for. And other than that, we're pretty much in line. And the budget we've prepared, I might have increased it slightly from that last year, but you can never tell, because some years, hopefully, you don't have any lawsuits. But let me tell you about one today, it was in court, it was really a riot. A person went up to the Southeast Station and parked their car right in the middle of 2 spaces. Kind of like a person like Tony Hay would do if he parked his Corvette there and, doesn't want anyone to touch it.
But was this, Jess, was this something that, has a decision been made yet, or?
No, so we shouldn't discuss it.
Yeah.
Ah, okay,
I
I'll
got
wait.
everyone in suspense now.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, you know what,
Stay tuned.
you obviously, anyone can go into
Okay, I'll wait.
courts and
I-
public, and, you could hear this, with some exceptions, of course, family court, et cetera,
Okay,
but.
I'll wait till next time. It's a good one, though.
So what I'm thinking is that maybe it would be prudent at this time that we not discuss it.
Okay, I'm glad we have an attorney here. Thank you. And you're not acting as attorney.
And absolutely, I'm not.
Just
I'm a
my
council
friend,
person. I
just his
actually-
friend to keep me out of jail. But it was a good one. It was so good, we had 3 people from the town, Michelle, myself, and the person who handles it. It was great. Anyway, well, I'm waiting for the decision. Okay. Other than that, recognition of the public.
Uh,
Recognition of the board.
I have nothing.
Well, I think we all have colds and allergies up here, so we apologize for the sniffling, the tissues, and the coughing. But other than that, I hope everyone out there is doing a little bit better than us at this point.
Yeah.
And we won't see you before Election Day. Please go out and vote.
Vote early, vote often.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn for tonight.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye, thank
Thank
you.
you all for coming.